show. I'm going to jump right in here and welcome to the show Philip Bittner, who's joining us early, earlier than he normally does on our Wednesdays, which I greatly appreciate. Um, this morning, fine, sir. I'm in Los Angeles. You are in Kiev right now. Um, you've gotten, I think, the newly christened flagship on the Edge episode in the can, out the door.
Yep, done repairing the studio, which was damaged in the winter, this last winter because of Russia's attack on the energy infrastructure. We had to wait like weeks at a time for one
Yeah,
electrician to come in from one department, and then another from another department, and then one from the city. And of course, they were all incredibly busy doing the same thing for hundreds of thousands of people. So
right.
uh, it took, it would be, we can get an appointment in 2 weeks. Okay, fine. Get that done. Okay, now you need to fix this because that got fixed, but now you need the next step, and those guys need 2 weeks. And so eventually we got to where we needed to be, and we put out last week an episode on Sunday with a prominent Ukrainian journalist who works for all the like really big networks here.
Right.
She's an anchor, and she was also a foreign correspondent for them and lived in New York and covered the UN. Natalia Lutsenko, and she was fantastic. And we just recorded today next week's episode coming out next Sunday, which was with Jakob or Jacob, depending, Casbo,
Mhm.
depending on. He's a former Danish intelligence officer. He was station chief for Danish intelligence in the Middle East, but now was obviously able to talk on a wide number of topics. And
Right.
he was here in Kiev for the security conference, and then took out an hour of his day, for which we're very thankful. And we sat down and talked everything from Ukraine and what he's talking to his colleagues and counterparts here in Ukraine, in the intelligence community, but then also about European global
Mhm.
security, transatlantic global security, how the conflict in the Strait is affecting everything, including the conflict here.
Right.
So we went from on the ground here in Ukraine all the way up to, are we in World War III already? And every
I,
strata in between.
I have to say, at my count, uh, got to be at least at 0.6. Yeah, that's where I am right now. I don't think we're like, I think we that ship has sailed on World War III a long time ago. I would argue, and I think you might agree with me on this. We'll see that the Cold War itself was deadly enough and damaging enough to constitute a World War III category because it was especially Russia's efforts stayed through practically every country on the planet, certainly half of the ones in our hemisphere. And it's interesting to me that continually, and this might be a factor of decaying brand or just habit, but Donald Trump is still in the process of protecting Vladimir Putin and Russia's, uh, you know, symmetrical warfare attacks on the United States at every turn. Like he attacks journalists more than he attacks the Ayatollahs or Vladimir Putin, and they're in bed together.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't want to give any spoilers because
Right.
I think, I'm hoping people will tune in on Sunday to hear the full extent of how we lay this out. But we may not be in World War III, but we are in a global conflict. This
Certainly.
this is a this is a global conflict. It has gone past a local beef between neighbors, which it never was actually here in Ukraine. But let's say on the lower level spectrum of conflict, you have regional, neighbor to neighbor or breakaway republics or something that's very isolated. And then you go regional, and it's you know one country, and the war in that country is affecting two other countries, and and then eventually get to the point where we kind of come to the conclusion, and again, watch the show if you really want to see us break this down, is that it may not be
Right.
World War III, but this is not limited to any. It's not even regional. It's global. We are in a global conflict. Um, at the end of the day, between autocracy and liberal democracy, but we break it all down when it comes
Well,
to Iran, Russia, China, DPRK,
right.
take your pick, all that kind of stuff.
Everybody out there in the chat room, I'm working on my audio on my end. Apologies. I'm trying to get it remedied. The mic is not moving. It's just, I think it got loose, like a cable got loosened someplace. So that's my guess. If I'll try and see if I can center it. I'm messing around in the background. But know that I'm on it in that regard. Fear not. Um, but it also could be the interwebs. There's always that possibility. But Phil's audio is great, so it's clearly the output. So on my end, do I sound okay to you, Phil?
You do sound a little choppy to me as well. I think
Okay,
I think it's something actually localized with
yeah,
you.
yeah, more than likely.
Uh,
Okay,
yeah, but I mean, you
for the
know me. I can kill time here for a
oh
bit.
boy,
And take the reins. Some of the biggest news we have today is with the kind of removal of Viktor Orban in Hungary to a government that is slightly, well, more than slightly, but is more in a different way than Orban was as a puppet of Putin, which of course is one of the reasons why he was ousted
right.
was his, and Hungarians have no love for Moscow. So um, uh, with his European stage, it looks like things are going to start flowing again. The European Union looks set to uh, ratify a 90 billion euro, which I guess would be somewhere around 100. Don't hold me to this, but because
Mm,
I don't know the exact exchange rate, but I bet it's 110 billion
something like that.
dollars.
Yep. Does this sound better, by the way, a little bit? Let me know. It'll take a second,
That's
but okay.
sounds better and is more steady. No, no, you're
Excellent.
not breaking up.
Great. Okay.
So there's that, and I guess reciprocally, although it's not been expressly said that it was reciprocal, um, the Ukrainians have decided to reopen the pipeline, the Druzhba or Friendship pipeline that runs from Russia through Ukraine and goes to Hungary and Slovakia, two countries that are desperate for that fossil fuel, for that gas, and has been obstructionist and very critical of aid to Ukraine as a result of that. And that again, so you get the money that was being obstructed by Orban is now the check is being written as we speak, sort of thing, and reciprocally, Slovakia and Hungary get their traditional energy from Russia, which nobody's crazy about because
Right.
nobody likes to see Russia getting money. But if that's what it takes to get things in motion within the European Union, I think a lot of Ukrainians are going to be happy, or at least satisfied with that. So we talked about that. That's a big news thing today. Trying to think if there's some. I mean, it's when it comes to the war itself, I didn't see anything that, and maybe I missed it, but I didn't see anything that was extraordinary. Um,
Hmm.
we we had an attack yesterday that wasn't great, but was far from the worst attack we've been through here in Kiev and in other places in the country. the Ukrainians continue to hit inside Russia, so all of that is still going on. But I did not see any extraordinary exchanges of fire between Ukraine and Russia, nor did I see any massive loss or gain of territory. So we're, at least for today, or let's say the last, 36 hours, 72 hours, um, it's been kind of the status quo. So let's hope it stays that way. Nobody likes getting shot at. But
I wish that
um,
was. I wish we could say that definitively, because I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum, but there's clearly a lot of weird in the world. I will say that uh, over the last little bit, I'm curious as to you know how the Ukrainians feel, and maybe this isn't something you can know right away, but something to be looked into or asked around about. That it feels like Trump is doing to Iran what Russia was doing to Ukraine. Phony attempts at ceasefire as cover for an attack. The Iranians seem to believe so. Whether they mean it or not is hard to say. I mean, they're basically they're fighting fire with fire, which has been their problem in the region for a very long time, and that they are dealing with a troll president, and therefore they are trolling him. So most of their major attacks over the last couple of weeks have been like Lego videos and rap songs, and they are jamming a shit ton of like fake documentaries and stuff like that, just dumped on the internet, and basically taking a page out of Russia's book and doubling down using AI for everything because you can crank out content so fucking fast.
yeah,
But still, there's still no bite behind the bark, and Russia's increasingly in that situation with Ukraine as well. And I feel like you know Ukraine's been smart in how they pushed back against Russia and started using the name and shame kind of thing in the media, but they're also able to push back with real attacks. They're the first last week, the first completely robotic offensive, like a battle where all the fighters on the side of the Ukrainians were robots. They were either the ground robots and drones, and air drones, both spotting and dropping munitions, and then the roving gun turrets that they have that are, I mean, are they they're RC devices? Are they technically robots? Not really, but they certainly aren't, people in the theater of war in a dangerous situation. They're, better, it's like I've said about
yeah,
why drones don't go home in flag draped coffins.
yeah, yeah, they get blown up and they don't leave widows
Mm-hmm.
or orphans. So yeah, I mean, there's that. I did see on the larger stage when we're talking about the conflict, because again, a lot of this is there's a common thread that runs through a lot of this, and
Yeah,
that is the Moscow, Tehran, Beijing, Pyongyang, the autocrats, and then what are ostensibly the liberal democracies. Certainly, Western Europe. We're under strain, but we haven't lost our little democracy. But regardless, anyhow, it's increasing
yeah,
this conflict between those two um, spheres of influence. So to talk about it, I think is fair. I did see, and I don't know if it has changed, that the Iranians came out earlier today and said, "Yeah, we're not going to Islamabad,"
yeah,
which is an utter and complete embarrassment and
right.
failure by the Trump administration. So that whole thing, that's going to go on for quite. And you're right. I mean, there is a similarity in the sense that um, Moscow has repeatedly been very disingenuous about what they really intend to do when it comes on the diplomatic stage. They'll say,
Mm-hmm.
we'll meet with the Ukrainians in Abu Dhabi, but the preconditions are that you have to surrender and ratify, the idea that you've lost four provinces. And the Ukrainians are like,
Right.
well, that's a non-starter. So
Yeah.
you're not coming in good faith. And I think the Ukrainians are, I'm sorry, the Iranians are doing something similar in the sense that they are pulling a lot of strings and making um, Washington dance to Tehran's tune,
Yeah.
which is not favorable to Trump. But if they're um, setting the table, if they are in charge of um, the narrative,
Right.
then this is already a massive loss for the
Right.
United States and for the Trump administration. So, we'll see what happens. But I don't think the conflict in the Gulf is anywhere close to ending, and sadly, I don't think here either.
Right.
You will see. We'll see what happens. Because the Ukrainians are actually making some progress in the southeast front,
Yeah.
and if they're able to, and this is a big if, but if they're able to get to the sea, if they're able to get to the Sea of Azov,
Yeah. That's a game
this war,
changer. Yeah.
yeah, this war changes fundamentally,
Right.
and Putin's in real trouble if that's what happens. They're not quite there yet. We'll see what happens as we go into the summer months. Um, but my guess is we have at least another year
Yeah.
at the war here in Ukraine. Sadly, I don't think we'll And again, where I'm stepping out of my area of expertise when I talk about the Strait, but I don't think the world can suffer through a year of the Strait
Of
being
it being
completely
closed.
closed.
No,
Yes.
I completely agree. And I think everybody around Trump is aware of that and is kind of trying to, I don't know, break that news to him without breaking him, without triggering him into some sort of spasm. Because one of the stories that came out recently was that he had to be removed from the Situation Room because he was freaking out during the rescue mission, and they were literally like, "Okay, Gramps, go have a pudding. We'll handle this," because he was popping a stitch in the room. That's not changing at all. He's done like two semi-public events. He did one of those like tele rally phone calls and a bunch of. He's been calling journalists, basically trying to cajole or force them into becoming like mouthpieces for what he wants them to say, and then he gets mad when they print exactly what he says.
Yeah.
So it's nuts, and the price of oil just yanked up again. So it was getting down where the futures were, and this is specific. This is kind of the important part. The futures market was pointing to. Let's see if I can bring it up on here so you can see it. Was humming around 90 because they believed what he said about it ending. And then whoop, like over the last couple of hours, the futures market is starting to creep up, and it's going to do this all day because there is no exit from this. And and Trump finds himself in a very similar situation, I think, to Vladimir Putin, which is this is so aggressive and so arrogant that unless you come back with something awesome, you look like a complete asshole.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah,
so
and you started a conflict without thinking about exit strategies.
right,
Uh, and both of them went into this without thinking about exit strategies, and both of them also find their options increasingly narrowing.
right,
It's getting it's can't do that. Let's try. I mean, let's. Apparently, Tehran came at them with a proposal, and it didn't include one aspect or another, whatever.
yeah,
They're both Putin and Trump are acting in a way that is increasingly diminishing their options, and so
right,
they are getting painted into a corner. And what is I don't know which scares me more, Putin or Trump being painted into a corner. You know,
Yeah. Well, here's
I
the thing.
mean,
If reports, there was one report kind of, and this is loose to the edge of the maggot universe. So a huge, without a not a grain of salt, but an entire salt lick on the side of a mountain where all the deer gather so that they can hydrate properly. One of them was saying that effectively Trump was talking about a tactical nuke on a singular site in Tehran or in someplace near there. One of the nuclear sites like hit the B-2 target again, but with a nuke this time to show him who's boss. And it was Dan Kane who basically said, "Sir, you cannot do that," and stopped him. Now, the way they tell it is, he was reaching for the fucking football and Dan Kane, bitch slapped him and stopped it. But in reality, it was probably more like he threw that idea out, and everybody in the room went, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! No, we're not. If we go there, it's all over. You're over. Your family is over. The rest of your life, you're a pariah. The American people didn't sign off on this war. This is not like Japan, where we were in World War II, legit." Fighting a compounded enemy between the Nazis and the Japanese, and there was some reasoning behind it. This is, you picked this shit. You're complaining nobody's joining with you. You have no exit strategy, and you chose to nuke a place that couldn't even attack you, that doesn't even have nukes, because after you've told everybody their navy's gone, their army's gone, their radar's gone, their anti-aircraft's gone, their leadership's dead 3 times over. So again, who the fuck are you negotiating with if everybody's dead? That part drives me crazy. And apparently now they don't even know. And the interesting thing is, in the parallels with like Russia, Ukraine, I think it's more like Russia definitely has their ducks in a row as far as who their negotiators are in these situations. They're just completely ridiculous. They don't, they're
well,
not
their
gonna,
demands are ridiculous. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, no,
That they know it's
the Russians have a professional team. Their demands are ridiculous. We
right,
have clowns and incompetence,
right.
and they can't even formulate an agenda
Whoops. Yeah,
or an offer. So I mean that's even a non-starter. But yeah, I
right.
mean you talk about when we dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki at the end of the Second World War. We also didn't. I mean, we did the concept of mad
Yeah.
didn't even exist.
Didn't exist. Right.
We've lived with the concept of mad since you and I share a generation. We're both Gen X.
Yeah.
You remember as I'm sure you remember as I do that we were actually we lived with the threat of nuclear
Yeah.
annihilation. Even if you don't go into the whole duck and cover stuff. I mean, what did we watch on television the day after? What
Right.
was it Bush who had the campaign ad with the girl picking the petals,
Yes. Yeah.
and it was the nuclear explosion. It may have been a different campaign, but regardless, we lived with political campaigns where literally they were telling us the guy that you go and cast your ballot, it might be the guy that destroys the world. And
Yeah.
so we grew up with this concept of mutually assured destruction. So
Right.
yeah, hearing that Trump would even conceive of using a nuke would of course have everybody around him go, "Ah, oh my God, no, you're
Yeah.
nuts, stop him." On the Russian side of things, there's a number. First off, they are also aware of the ramifications of using a nuke and mutually assured destruction, and what the reaction would be from the Chinese, or
Yeah.
the world. That would be it for them
Yep.
on that aspect. So they share that with Washington, but they also have an additional problem here. The Russians do in that they can't destroy Ukraine.
Right.
They have to conquer Ukraine. Okay,
Right.
because and again, you and I have spoken about this, but for those of you who weren't privy to one of the other times we discussed this, is that Russia has to conquer Ukraine because Ukraine is a colony and it needs to be maintained, not destroyed. It has to be brought into the Russian Empire. And it has to be, I mean, we have to go, for those of you who have not watched last week's episode with Natalia, Natalia and I talked about this, is the fact that the Russians have this attitude. She tells a great story, and again, not too many spoilers because go watch the episode. But she tells the story of being at the UN and somebody coming to them and being like, um, you know,
Mhm.
you guys are almost as good as Russians. If we, it was a Russian diplomat who approached her and said, if we could just change you a little bit, you'd be really good Russians.
Mhm.
And Natalia was looking at this guy and going, you really have no idea the country that I
Right.
come from. We
Yeah.
have no interest at all in being quote unquote good Russians. We are Ukrainians and we have a separate identity. So, aside from the whole mutually assured destruction issue that Russia shares with Washington, Moscow shares with Washington or Putin shares with Trump, is this added extra necessity that Moscow has that they can't carpet bomb Kiev. They can't carpet bomb these
Right.
places that are tied into the history of Russia because of Russian empire. They
Right.
have to conquer it. It has to be conquest, tamed, and brought back into the fold of the Russian Empire. Everybody has to speak Russian. Everybody has to
Mhm.
be Russian Orthodox. Everybody has to, revere the same cultural icons that Russians, revere. And all you just have to be better Russians, you
Yeah.
Ukrainians. And the Ukrainians are like, go fuck yourself, you
Yeah.
know.
Exactly.
So
Right.
that's an added little extra difficulty for Putin, which
Yeah.
adds the only reason I care is because again it contributes to Putin's options being increasingly limited because of this. But aside from that, I don't give a rat's ass if he's troubled by this at night. Screw him, he started this.
Right. Yeah. And the same thing with Trump, like, get moving into his Nixon phase of, like, walking around the Oval Office by himself, yelling at paintings who are talking to him and won't leave him alone. John Fugelsang talks about he'd love to be, see him visited by three ghosts. The problem is, he would. I always think of like the Blackadder Christmas Carol when it comes to Trump. It's like that's what happened to him when he was a kid. Is that he saw a Christmas Carol and got the entire wrong message. Was that, like, once you start being nice, all these fuckers, ask for stuff. So, let him starve. And then in the Blackadder Christmas Carol, he starts off as the nicest guy in town, and then everybody keeps like ripping him off and stealing his Christmas goose and all this stuff and leaving him. And he's trying to be a good Christian, and at the end of it, he's just like, screw everybody. Right at the time the Queen was going to give him a lot of land for being the nicest guy in the world and putting up with all this shit, like, he basically tells her to go fuck herself, thinking she's like another hanger on at his door, which is, the great moral tale of that particular special. Um, I do think it's, there is some minor similarity between the seat of Russian culture being in Ukraine and them not being able to destroy it, in that it must be very painful for some right-wing Republicans in our country, whether Trump is aware of this or not. I'm sure the Stephen Millers of the world are, certainly, is that Iran is where we get the word Aryan, or vice versa. That Iran got its name as land of the Aryans, as in Aryan race, as in like the Nazification of of fair people. And that was where it was rooted. That's where that word came from. And so for them, maybe there is some, like, we can't bomb Persia. That's where the super whites come from. Um, you know, it's a little
I,
awkward.
I, I think you're giving too much depth of thought to Trump in the
Yes,
MAGA world.
I'm always in danger
Before
of
we
it.
take
Certainly Trump.
but here's another. I mean, if we as long as we're doing these kind of comparisons. And of course, it's apples and oranges, and
Right.
the two countries have similarities, but they also have vast differences. Is the speed with which Trump's base is
Hmm.
abandoning him because it's a democracy. And
Right.
so these guys are like, I'm getting off this obviously sinking ship as quickly as I possibly can because I want to walk away with some sort of political messaging or some sort of base that I can call to, some
Right.
sort of electorate that I can call to that will keep me in the game. So that's the political structure in America, and generally speaking in the West, but particularly in America. And so we see all these we see all these guys jumping, and don't give me the whole, the morality of no more forever wars, or you said you'd
Right.
release Epstein. If Trump was still, you know, licking their taint,
Yeah.
those guys would still be way on board. The opposite part of the equation being Putin, which, and I've said this before, and I believe it to be true. When I saw the fall of Yeltsin, or if you think about the fall of like Lenin, or um, in late stage Soviet Union, when those guys go, it goes quick. It goes real quick.
Yeah.
Guys don't start jumping ship to save political capital because they won't have any political capital. When it all goes down, it will be
Well,
brutal,
yeah,
brutal and quick.
it'll be like Yanukovych leaving Ukraine, like having to, taking a
Yeah.
bus to a taxi to a short
Or
puddle jumper to an airplane to a helicopter to get the fuck out of the country.
Gaddafi,
Yeah.
Ceausescu,
Right.
when these guys go, and Mussolini, Hitler, when these
Yeah.
guys go, because of the nature of the system that they've created, they don't have guys jumping ship hoping that they can live to fight another day. They have guys who just go. They either go into hiding, or they
Yeah.
go into exile, or they get killed with their leader. But
Yeah.
it tends to, as Hemingway would say, it says, uh, uh, slowly at first, and then all at
All at
once.
once. Yeah. Right.
I'm paraphrasing
Sure.
the short story, but and that's how it's going to go in Russia.
Right.
When Putin goes, it's going to happen real quick, and I don't know how bloody it's going to be. I don't think anybody can predict how bloody it's going to be. I don't
Right.
know if anybody can predict how dysfunctional it's going to be, how fragmented it's going to be. Um, but whatever happens, when Russia collapses, when Russia loses this existential war, which, as bad as it is, the Straits of Hormuz is not existential to the United States. But
Right.
when Russia loses this war, which they're bound to do,
Yeah.
it's, the die is cast. Uh, when that happens, I have every reason to believe, and if I'm wrong, then so be it. But it's going to
Right.
happen fast, and it's going to be, abrupt, and just, one night you're going to, one day you're going to wake up, or one night you're going to
Yeah.
go to bed having heard that Vladimir Putin had a massive coronary,
Yeah.
and
And yeah,
and
caused
so
by an
did.
abrupt fall out of a window.
Right, and coincidentally, so did this, dozen other people who were his
Right.
inside junta, inside, the Kremlin, or the GRU, or whatever,
Yeah.
they all suddenly developed the same heart condition and dropped dead in the middle of the night at the same time. I mean,
Right.
it's not it's not going to be a slow process. It's not going to be rats jumping the ship, although there may be a little of that happens in Russia. It more likely than not, um, it is, I believe, going to be swift, and it's going to be it's just going to be, One day the Kremlin will be occupied by a man named Vladimir Putin, and his entourage and his power brokers and the guys that keep him, you know, scare the hell out of everybody else so that everybody else sticks in line, and then the center of gravity will be gone, and
Yeah.
all the orbital bodies will fly out into the universe. It's going to be a lot different than what's happening in the United States. Thank God, our
Yeah.
system's better. Look, I'm sorry, our
Yes.
system is better. Our
Yeah.
system is built to withstand this kind of crap, and it's
Yeah.
been sorely tested. But
Yeah.
when this period of time comes to an end, it will not be violent and sudden and some sort of
Yeah.
civil war. You know,
Yeah.
it's
They
it, it,
wish.
it's yeah, they wish. Well, they don't know what civil war is. The guys that keep clamoring for civil war don't know what
Right.
civil war
Yeah.
actually looks like. Americans don't want civil war.
No.
If Americans got a taste of real civil war, it would end very quickly. It would
Yeah.
start, and
Well,
in fact,
I'll tell you.
it wouldn't start because the second people started blowing up the Walmart and setting up checkpoints between cities so that you can't get to the Jiffy Lube unless you have your
Yeah.
ID with you, and there's a 19-year-old kid with an M2 automatic weapon, 50 cal machine gun pointed it at you. Americans are going to go, thanks, no thanks, no, none of that. We don't want that. It won't even get to that point. So those clamoring for civil war or even some sort of civil conflict and violence, um, it's not, it's I don't think going to happen. And frankly, you know I'm even January 6th, the legacy of we still deal with the legacy of January 6th, and that was
Right.
nothing. That was bad. That was
Hmm.
bad. That was not good. I didn't like seeing that.
Don't.
But
Yeah.
having lived through honest to God revolutions
Yeah.
and honest to God civil
Compared to
wars,
Euromaidan. Yeah.
they don't want. We don't want it. We don't want it. We
Well,
we
I
would
would
reject
argue.
it. We would
I would
reject
argue.
it quickly.
Well, what we have. I mean, we have lived through a bunch of assholes over the last, I don't know, 9 decades who have tried by hook or by crook to jumpstart a civil war in the United States. I mean, there are certainly those in modern media who toy around with it by like kind of nudging us towards it. By warning us of it. Glenn Beck and Tim Pool and all these guys who are fucking like they're playing a game of Sims and then they just get bored of it every so often. But then there's been, I mean, that's what Charles Manson was all about. That's what Timothy McVeigh was all about. That's arguably what the Waco fuckers thought they were going to do. They thought they were going to start a war. They thought,
Yeah.
this will tip the world. The United States is going to decide at this moment that they got the same, half of us are going to decide they have the same grudge I have. And so all I got to do is kill some civilians or shoot some cops like the Bundys, the Bundy Ranch guys. Remember that whole standoff nonsense where they had their
Mhm.
women in front of them hoping the cops would beat or shoot one of the women, so that would give their snipers a reason to shoot police officers. And Donald Trump wants to basically, wanted to have them at the fucking White House. Like they have tried that several times. It never takes because the
Yeah.
society is too robust, too diverse, and too busy to get caught up in the grievances of psychopaths like that. And I think that's largely true even in Russia. It's partly why he hasn't been knocked off sooner. It's because there's no appetite in a modern society for that kind of bloodshed. There's too much to lose.
Yes, and we like our creature comforts. We don't uh, trust me. People who've not lived through war,
Yeah.
especially Americans who enjoy their creature comforts, they don't know really what it is. They think it's Red Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
They think it's
Yeah.
the Wolverines and all this kind of
And
stuff,
yeah.
and
Yeehaw.
it's that's not what war is really about. I mean, there was also there's the great story, and I was trying to look it up, but I haven't found it, and I don't want to keep digging, but I'm sure people will know what I'm talking about. And there was an attempt basically by the KKK
Yeah.
to I think it was FDR, to try and oust him by a violent coup when they tried to recruit an American general who was a veteran of the First World War, and he said, go pound sand, and
Yeah.
turned on him.
Yeah.
So I mean, look, we've talked about this is another topic you and I have spoken about on many, many, many times. These
Yeah.
guys have always these guys have always been with us. They've
Yeah.
always been with us.
And they're
Whether or
not.
not they're the
eh,
nativists, the America
Right.
Firsters, the Confederacy, the KKK,
Yeah.
now MAGA. Take your pick. It's always guys that are like, "Oh, I'm perfectly happy to hug the flag and the Constitution, unless the vote doesn't go my way. In which case, screw it. I'm doing this by violence." They've always
Hmm.
been with us, guys that don't really believe in the American project.
Right.
And I'm sadly, I don't see them going away anytime soon. I mean, I hope to God that we continue to push back against them, and
Right.
we get to a place where they are completely either marginalized almost to utter insignificance, or we get rid of them altogether in the sense of that thought is not acceptable. That attempt at American politics
Right.
is not viable because the American people reject it. I mean, we are a country where people have the right to vote. They have the right to say what they like, what they want. With minor limitations. But more than anything else, they're able to participate in a republic. There all of these things that they have recourse to a just system of law, which we're still working on. I mean, none of this is perfect. I'm not
Right.
claiming that it works. I'm claiming that's what we are. Those of us who really believe in the American project, that's what
Hmm.
we're working towards. That is where we that is our North Star. It's where we head ourselves. But
Right.
there have always been the guys that have been like, yeah, the lip service, lip service, lip service. Oh, the vote didn't go my way. Screw you. I'm going to burn this place down. They've always been with us. And I
Right.
hope that there, it comes a day where that's not true. But again, and I hate to be a broken record a million times a day, but I will say it again. It's the speed quote. It's either you believe in the American project genuinely, and believe in the ideals of all men are created equal and have equal say in the sense of their vote, have equal protection, laws applied to them in equal ways. Um,
Hmm.
then if we're not, if all we're doing is pretending about this, then screw it. Let's just go back to the way it was, and that's the guy with the most money, the guy who's biggest,
Yeah.
um, gets to eat the small and the poor.
Right.
And that's not the American project that I believe in. And
Right.
that's not the American project that I'm here, frankly, in Ukraine, fighting along Ukrainians who have the
Yeah.
very same ideals. It's worth it. It's worth it
Hmm.
because the alternative, let me tell you, the alternative sucks. The
Yeah.
alternative sucks. When the guy next door to you, because he has a bigger club, gets to tell you how to live, or he bashes in your brain and takes your wife and
Yeah.
everything you own, that's not a way to live.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I've seen it with my own eyes, and we don't want it. We really don't want it. So fuck MAGA, fuck Trump,
Yeah. Yeah.
fuck all the guys down through our entire history. I don't care if you're the Confederacy. Fuck you.
Yeah.
If you wore the gray, you go away. Tear all
Yeah.
those statues down. Screw those motherfuckers.
Right.
I mean,
You
they
don't
were
get to have.
abolitionists. This year, you
Yeah.
grew up in Kentucky. There were abolitionists in Kentucky.
Yep. The
There
state was
were,
split, brother
yeah,
against
you
brother.
know,
Right. Yeah, those
I do
most
believe in the project, or you don't.
well, yeah, and most of those Civil War statues that they, defend as heritage, including Donald Trump will defend as heritage, were put up in the fucking 50s. They
Yeah.
weren't, the vast majority of them, and it's like you don't get to put chess pieces back on the board after you fucking lose. And basically, all those statues are just warnings to minorities that this ain't your town. So get fucked with those things. It's just annoying.
Yeah.
It's so
Pisses
pathetic.
me
Put
off.
it in. You want to put it in a museum called the Daughters of the Confederacy Heritage Museum? Knock yourself out. Get your have it have a bunker underneath it that you guys can wait out the tribulation in and eat beans and fart all over each other. But the idea that we should have statues to these idiots is absurd. I don't give a shit if they
Was
were
it? Was it?
if
Was
that
it
they were great
Kentucky?
at winning until they lost. Get like
Yeah, fuck them.
yeah.
Was it Kentucky that had the newspaper that was an abolitionist newspaper where the editor in chief put a cannon at the top of the stairs going up to the newsroom? Was that in Kentucky, or I
I
remember
don't know.
there's a famous story about a newspaper who was anti-Confederacy, anti-slavery, pro-abolition, against, I don't know if
Right?
it was part of, I don't know if it was part of Bleeding Kansas or whatever, but there's always been this this double-sided coin of America. But I believe in the project, and I think at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's our side. It's our side of the coin. The guys that actually believe in what was put down in the
Yes.
framers
Okay.
and in the
Yes.
Constitution.
So that was, by the way, it was in Kentucky. I just looked it up because it sounded familiar, but I wanted to check or whatever because I didn't want to get out over my skis. The guy
Crazy
who's
SOB.
the guy who started this paper called the True American, beg your pardon, the True
Yes, yes,
American.
yes.
Yeah, you know what his name was? Cassius Clay. That's who Muhammad
Ah,
Ali's mother named him after, Cassius Clay, this abolitionist dude who was a radical abolitionist. He fortified the newspaper office. He had lining the street door with sheet iron, installed 4-pound brass cannons at the top of the stairway, which were loaded with musket balls and old nails. He put musket balls and nails in it because he didn't have cannonballs. So he just had like regular shot and
and
nails.
like, and like an arsenal as well.
Yeah,
He had like
yeah,
a
yeah,
bunch of muskets and stuff. These are journalists.
yeah,
These are guys who were putting out editorials saying, screw slavery, screw,
yeah,
this economy that is screwing everybody over because of slave labor, aside from the ethical and the moral and religious reasoning.
yeah,
Again, both sides of this equation have always been with us. It's just
yeah,
which side is the dominant one, which side is the true America. And I would argue, and I'll go to my grave arguing this. It's the guys who
mm,
look at the Constitution, who look at the Bill of Rights, who look at you
yeah,
know liberal democracy and the thinkers of the Age of Enlightenment, who said, we don't have to live this way, where if you're big and if you're small, then we know how this goes. That law can
right.
be on your side. That
That's right.
elections can be on your side. That you
By
can
the
vote in your representatives.
by the way, I
It's
did
always
a
been with
poll.
us.
Yeah, I did a poll real quick in the YouTube chat that was which war ends first, Iran, Ukraine, or the Roses? So far, the Roses, the Roses are ahead by 66%. Iran is next, and then Ukraine is third. So, but yeah, Cassius Marcellus Clay was the old white guy who had a newspaper that was ferociously anti, slavery, who knew he was surrounded by other people who might want to not have him publish his paper, so he loaded cannons at the stairs of his publishing company with musket balls and nails for anybody that tried to come through and reinforce steel door. He was ill at one point. He got sick. And while he was sick, they charged the building because he couldn't. A bunch of them came in and they stole his printing equipment. They didn't kill him or burn the place down because it was attached to a bunch of other buildings. But he eventually moved his stuff to Cincinnati and operated out of Cincinnati, which was a safer area um, at the time. So yeah,
Well,
Cassius Clay,
you know, the first stanza, John Brown lies a moldering in his grave, used to piss off the Confederacy
right?
because nobody they hated more than I have my issues with John Brown and John Brown's story, but regardless,
Yeah,
it pissed off the Confederacy because it was
yes,
white guys going, "Hey, we see your bullshit and we're calling
yeah.
you on it,"
And
you
we
know,
outnumber you. We
and
outnumber
there are
you.
more of us. Yeah, there are more
There
of
are,
us.
yes, there were, and it's one of those parts of history. It's kind of like when we talk about the My Lai massacre. That while we are focused on
Yes.
the awful people amongst us, which we should because they should be purged and marginalized as they deserve to be, you can't forget the people who push back against them and your allies who were there from the fucking beginning. A lot of the talk that right wingers seize on that's, like the anti-white, the racist history of America and blah, blah, blah. While the transatlantic slave trade certainly came here and was a functional aspect of the South, there's an economic argument that it actually held the economy of the South back because cheap labor made them not get better at both making and selling goods and producing them. The cotton gin fucked up that whole thing for them, right? They would have gotten to that a lot faster had they not, stuck with this. But in the transatlantic slave trade, only about 6% of the slaves that were taken from Africa that came to the Americas came to North America, including the area that was Canada. And at the time, the Cherokee were allowed to have slaves for 10 years after the Civil War. There were black slaves carrying the goods of Cherokee leaders on the Trail of Tears. They were the pack mules for the Cherokee at the time. South America is full of them. There's a whole caste system and a colorist system in South America because of that. The vast majority of them went to Central and South America. But you have to go. It's important to call out the awful people that have done terrible things in history. But one of the best ways you can do it is point to the people of their kind that stood up for the good, who sent their
From the
sons to
very
die.
beginning. From
Yes,
the very beginning.
from the
I mean,
beginning. Came
we had
here.
guys in we had
Right.
guys in the Revolutionary War saying we need to raise a black battalion.
Yes,
The name escapes me at the moment, but he's in Hamilton the musical. There are
that's
there
right.
are books and books and books. I always get pissed off when I hear that people make the argument of like, well, the North fought for the Union and to keep and Lincoln didn't care about slavery; he cared about the Union. And there may be a kernel of truth to some of that, but there are entire books filled
Yeah.
with letters from Union soldiers who, when they started their advance into the Confederacy and they started going on the offensive deep into the antebellum South, that a lot
Yeah.
of these Union soldiers who, yeah, may have been drafted, they may have been kind of conscripted, they may have signed up to save the Union or to
Right.
keep factories open or whatever it was. A lot of these Union soldiers that once they actually got down into antebellum South were like seeing what it really looked like, and they were like,
Yes.
"Oh no, fuck this, fuck it."
Yeah.
By the end of the war, a lot of the Union soldiers were actually dyed-in-the-wool abolitionists. Like,
Right.
screw you, Confederate pricks! Like, this
Yeah.
is totally inhuman and nothing,
Yeah. My
nothing we should
there are
abide.
yes, there's a reason why there are certain names throughout the South, like white names that were taken by freed slaves who didn't have names at the time, including Cassius Clay's family, that took the name of abolitionists as an alignment with the people who actually cared, who actually did this stuff. And I think the biggest disservice that people do is in lack of recognition of the allyship that existed there, that was deep and abiding, and in many ways a spiritual belief that was rooted in, in true, like, ethical and moral beliefs of the people at the time. And what happens is it gets overshadowed by the awful people, because we don't want those people to come back. We want everybody to castigate and ostracize them. And I get that, right? We talk more about the Nazis in the news and all that kind of stuff than we talk about the French Resistance and the British and the Americans and stuff. Even our referential movies are about the concentration camps and stopping what at the space, like discovering and stopping at the space. That not all the push that went there. Movies like Dunkirk and others, certainly do some of that. But this is crucial to it, and I think this is one of the best things you can take away with this, is that never let the evil that you're fighting eclipse the people who are on your left and your right, who are on your flank supporting you in this. And never let them be able to take that good away. I got other guests waiting in the wings. So Phil, thank you for coming in early today. Really appreciate you.
Last word on this is also, with everything that we have spoken about this duality in America of, like, do we really believe in the ideals of America? I can tell you categorically, Ukrainians that's what they're trying to build. They're trying to get away with Moscow, which is antithetical to all of these ideals. And so that's yet another reason why we need to support the Ukrainians, because those of us who are in the majority in America who actually do believe in the project should recognize that we share camaraderie and common cause with the Ukrainians. So we need to, support them as much as we can.
Right. That's right.
That's why we do On the Edge. This week will be a really good one. I hope you'll watch. It's Sunday, 8 p.m. Kiev time, whatever that is in your local time zone. So please do tune in. If you didn't watch last week's episode, really good one, go back and watch it, and we'll talk on Saturday.
Love it. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. All right. I'll see you soon. There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. The lovely and talented Philip Ittner. And while I do a little bit of housekeeping to bring in our next guests, Sean and Jody, who are, slumming. They're away from the bar today. They're, which I find I greatly appreciate. That they'll hang out with me with no liquor present. I'm very honored by that fact. I want to remind you guys, hit the like, share the show, like, subscribe, etc., etc. We're like, I think, 12 subscriptions away from 89,000. We're creeping up. Come on, we can do this. I know you guys want to keep me all to yourselves. I get it. I love that I'm your internet side piece. It's fine. But if you want me to have any kind of impact on the level that, we need to have, we gotta, it's a numbers game, kids. It's all there is to it. So forgive me for asking you to do this, but I know, hold on one second. I had an alt button here. Okay, there we go. I know that this is, just a crucial aspect of this. We want to be taken seriously in independent media. You got to subscribe to me. You got to subscribe to Phil. You've got to subscribe to, wait for it, he and Sean, who are right here. Look at that. Welcome to the show, everybody. Hey. I was doing that behind the scenes while I was talking. I was creating the scenes. I was doing some homework. Welcome, guys.
You're magic. What can we say?
Thank you for being on my show, and thank you for having me on yours.
Well, you're welcome any and every time.
Yeah, look, we always love having you. In the bar. We do the mocktails and the cocktails. So for those who imbibe and for those who don't.
I feel like I've entirely inspired the mocktail movement at Politics Bar. So, and tell before we even get started, tell everybody your schedule, your regular schedule, like time of day, where they can find you, all that stuff, so we can get, because I know we get wound up in the madness of the day. It's just gonna be, we're gonna forget.
Sean is better at this than I.
It's evenings. We're on different affiliates at different times. Starting basically at about 6 Eastern, 6, 7, 8, I think 9, I think 11. So a lot of the different affiliates, which if you go to thepoliticsbar.com, you go to any of our news on tap, you can scroll to the bottom of the list. You see all the affiliates, great ones like WCPT and AM 950, Progressive Voices Worldwide. We do all of that and others too. And it's just the fact of, then of course you can get us on the on Substack. You can listen on your favorite podcast player, or you can subscribe at thepoliticsbar.com.
Right.
Yeah. It's so, I mean, basically, starting after about 6 p.m. Eastern every weekday, you can find us somewhere. Best place to do it is just go to thepoliticsbar.com.
There you go. Excellent. So I had a little poll before you guys came on of which war would end first, Iran, Ukraine, or the Roses. The Roses is winning by 71% at this point. Iran and Ukraine nearly statistically a tie, so within the margin of error, if I may. The whiplash that I think a lot of people in the news and MAGA are feeling about, it's on, it's off, it's, my sister, my daughter, Iran, they were with us, Gaddafi, Assad, God bless you, right? The back and forth of this horseshit. In the last, obviously Friday was like a last-ditch rug pull for Don Jr. and Eric to make some money off the stock market before this entire thing comes crashing down, I guess. Because besides the king is mad. Yes?
He's mad, but Donald's gotten into a situation that he's never experienced before. Somebody who won't buy his bullshit and doesn't care.
Yeah.
They're like, I mean, you pointed out how many times, Jody, the Lego thing?
Oh my God, the Lego videos that Iran is doing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they totally prove that they have his number, that they know that he's full of shit. They know that, he's, I'm going to kill you and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yeah, fuck you, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Blah, blah.
Well, the problem that okay, so here's the reality. I think they're trolling because they know he's a troll, and that's how you do it. I mean, what other choice do you have? The reality is that they don't materially have the ability. I mean, they could certainly drone strike our ships. They could probably sneak something through. It could be a very embarrassing day for Trump if they were to hit one of our smaller battleships or something like that. Most of them are out of the range. We don't know the honest answer about what missiles they have left over, those kind of things. Like, this is a serious, this was what's left of a serious army, whether it was a paper tiger like Russia was, because they're very much tactically and from a PR standpoint the same. Like, Russia uses mutual assured destruction as an umbrella under which they can attack anybody. It's like, don't you dare fuck with us because we'll nuke you. And Iran is, this like, we have secret shit you don't know about, which may or may not be true. The issue that I've had from this is that the size of the military is so big, and the military budget that they gave him in the big BS bill last year is so enormous that my concern is not that he can't do it. It's that we absolutely can. We just shouldn't. And the reality that we're facing is that the U.S. military could absolutely destroy all of civilization on Earth, much less in Iran. The question is there a version of it where there's any coming back? And the answer, I think, is clearly no. And that's what it's almost like they're hiding under like self-destruction, like sad, self-assured destruction. Like they know he could fucking kill us all, but likened to what the Israelis are doing with the Palestinians, there's a tipping point where the American people and the rest of the world will go, hold on a second, this is fucking terrible, and well beyond. That's what I think was triggered in the civil, we're going to destroy your civilization last week. Right. At this point, we don't know who's making the deals and who's in charge. I mean, it's Vahidi in Iran, pretty much. There was a coup. He basically took over. The Ayatollah may or may not be alive. There's the joke is there's a cardboard cutout that they bring out, to like ask it questions with his picture on the face of it.
So we can hit the Ayatollah?
Yes, that's exactly right. Yes. So the question is that does Donald Trump have the and the people around him, I think, which is key, have the moral, intellectual, ethical strategic capacity to even understand the shitstorm they are in.
I mean,
Yeah.
I look, it's a somewhat complex issue. The big we had a free link, a gift link to the Wall Street Journal story in yesterday's, I believe, was it yesterday's or was it Monday's, Jody? News on tap at the politics bar free if you want. But
see, that's how you do it.
There you go. But the story basically shows how the people who are around him have enough sense that they're trying to keep Donnie away from the Situation Room and away from certain things. Like, let us handle the war. Oh, here, you go watch TV, Donnie.
Go play with your ballroom. Yeah,
right, exactly. Yeah. Which, yeah, that's a whole other thing. But the whole issue is, I think some of them do somewhat understand, but the problem they keep running into is the perpetual problem with Donald Trump, where his tiny peen and his big fucking ego keep fucking everything up consistently. The Iranians,
right.
It's not that difficult if anybody understands international politics. If you've watched it, if you've paid attention to experts who know what the fuck is going on, they've made it really clear. Iran is like, look, we're not into this whole war thing anymore. We're ready to be fucking done. And they multiple times come back and been like, okay, like this last weekend was a perfect example. They were like, okay, Donald, fine. We'll do an agreement. And in exchange, we will drop our blockade. Now, anybody who's done diplomacy says, okay, that's a measure of good faith. I will do a measure of good faith the same. So that way you've done one, I've done another. We're both kind of looking even, and that's fine.
Right.
But Tiny Dick Donald says, no. I have to be the winner. Fuck you. I have to be the winner.
Yeah.
So he says, oh, well, you back down. Bitch, I'm not backing down until I get everything on paper and you get on your knees and you suck my tiny dick. And then I don't think you understand how this works, asshole. We'll give you, we'll still, you're douchebag. Everybody in the whole world knows Donald Trump's a douchebag. Well, we'll give you 24 hours to actually, act like a human being. Mm-hmm. And so then you'll back down. And he didn't. So then they put their blockade back up. I mean, it's it's not like what they're doing is ridiculous.
Well, also, the blockade itself is, I mean, it's debatable whether they have the ability to hold up their end of it at all. And the
Iran does, but only because of the fact that the Strait of Hormuz geographically is so small. In order for them to hold up their end of it, basically they have any one of a number of 24 idiots with shoulder-mounted launchers. I'm sure you were talking to Phil Ittner earlier, and the Ukrainians have been trying to school the U.S. on all of this and say, look, you got these bajillion-dollar weapons, and that's fine, but fuck, it takes $300, $500 fucking shoulder-mounted weapon, and some jackass hiding behind a hill who crawls out from a fucking cave that you have no idea where the fuck it is, and that's the entire geography around the Strait of Hormuz. We got 2 dozen of these motherfuckers, hiding out in the middle of fucking nowhere in these caves. All they do is there's a ship, pop up, go up, pew, boom.
Right.
They were just hitting those African ships that same way. So they have operational control of the strait because it's so easy and cheap for them to do. And the Ukrainians are like, dude, we've been through similar. We could educate you. But the U.S. and Keg Breath are like, fuck you. We got the biggest military in the world. We're smart. We got all these expensive weapons.
That's where we end up. Yeah. Well, this is okay. There are a couple of aspects of that, I think, tactically that they're counting on is that there's some semblance of IRGC cohesion as opposed to just fractional groups. Literally, because once that happens, you can't even negotiate to get it back open. That shoulder-fired rocket shit is true whether there's a functioning IRGC or whether there isn't. The worst part is when the IRGC leadership falls and everybody's got their in case of emergency break glass plan, like they're in a fucking nuclear silo in war games, and they break open the little thing and read the codes and go, this just says fuck them up. All right, I guess that's what we do. And so until you run out of shit, stop ships from going through there. If anybody tries to pass, that's what it's going to say. It's like a fortune cookie. It'll just go like, anybody tries to go through here, you kill them. Hide and shoot at ships. That's your gig now until you meet your maker. And only with some semblance of the IRGC telling them not to, for some strategic reason, will there be any kind of cohesion in that attack. if the IRGC falls for a time, there will be Houthi-like outbreaks
Yeah.
of IRGC dead enders who resent the strait being open, no matter who the fuck opened it. Whether it's just that the guy died and isn't telling them to keep it shut, or whether the Ayatollah cardboard cutout comes out and says, "Yeah, it's time to let it, let him go." It won't matter. There'll be a bunch of them that just believe that this is the wrong way to go. The guys who went to the negotiations, who were in theory going to the negotiations, were coming back to the head of the IRGC, and he was going, "Nah, don't like it." So, and Trump's like, "We got very reasonable people we're talking to." It's like, yeah, but they're not talking to reasonable people. So, I've said this a couple times, but I feel like I've never felt more kinship with the Iranian people, because both our countries are run by arrogant assholes with dreams of ruin the world.
Yep. Absolutely.
So
I mean, it's insane. Like, I mean, I feel for the Iranian people. Obviously, their government is fucking with them hardcore. They don't care. There is no uprising, Donald. And
there won't be.
They're good.
Well, certainly not until the IRGC is wiped out, or until you actually have regime change, because it won't be safe to do it. You're just drawing them out into, you might as well tell them to stand in a fucking valley surrounded by archers, with their thumb up their ass. It's like, why don't you guys go?
Donald wishes he were the Ayatollah in this country. Mark my words.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and the strategy that some of his idiotic people have is a strategy that may or may not have worked with a significantly smaller nation like Iraq, which they seem to have this conflation where they think Iraq, Iran, couple letters difference, fuck it, they're the same. And you're like, no. That's like saying rural western Nebraska is the same thing as Manhattan, New York. You're a fucking idiot if you think that's the case. Iran has so many millions more people. They are so much more advanced and built up. And look, it is a pretty harsh climate in some ways in Iran. I mean, some of the hottest stuff in the world, and the hottest places in the world are in Iran. They understand how to deal with all this shit, whereas Iraq, much smaller, much more sparse, much fewer people. I mean, not as developed. So these are two entirely different animals. Yet they go, they're Muslims, and its letters are close. Fuck.
Right.
It's close enough, right?
Shiite, who cares? Tomato.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, and okay, so we dealt with this, again, we're all, everything's a reboot with these idiots because they don't have any original ideas. So we're looking at, the same kind of nonsense we were talking about when Bush went into Iraq and Afghanistan in the first place, was that the distinctions between the groups and the infighting. I've made the case for a long time that Afghanistan isn't the graveyard of civilizations and everybody who fights there ends up losing is because it's amazing and everybody fights back. It's not a real country. The borders are the end of where everybody else has just gone, yeah, you can have that shit. Like anybody, over that ridge, you can only grow poppies and die of thirst. That's your two thing. And so there's only like tribal groups who they're not together, right? Yeah. They're not a cohesive group. So, most civilizations tap out and go, what the fuck are we here for, right?
Right.
Iraq was at least run by a secular hedonist. It's very much like Russia in that regard, in that if Russia was run by like an orthodox religious figure who believed that his reward was in heaven, it would have been way more fucking dangerous. But thank God he's just a hedonist with multiple wives and wants as much money as he can so he can spend time on dual plane yachts with hookers and shit. Like, that's the only thing that kept humanity alive for a long time. And Trump, as much as he'd like to be the Ayatollah, still ultimately has zero religious affiliation and understanding, no matter how much he tries to read Bible verses, painfully, just trying to squeeze them out of his. Yes. Oh yeah. And AI'd, fixed with AI.
I also say about Afghanistan, I've said this for years. Northern Afghanistan, the Northern Afghanistan is like the Florida-Georgia line, the area from Atlanta to the sea, in that. So I had a friend, still have him, still friends with him, who grew up in that area of northern Florida. Very definitely, very liberal, he lives here in the DC area, very liberal. But you mentioned Sherman, General Sherman, and Sherman's March to the Sea, and it
Right.
pisses him off. But it is something geographically that a lot of people in that area, regardless of where they stand politically, we're talking now, what, 150 years later, it still bites them. It still gets them because Sherman so drastically. I mean, for those people who don't know, when Sherman did his march to the sea, they literally said, let's kill or burn anything that's alive from basically Atlanta to the Atlantic Ocean. And they did. Men, women, cattle, doesn't matter, kids, gone. And people go, Jesus. Okay, now you go to northern Afghanistan, and the wonderful story that God, I wish I could remember where I heard it, and then I saw a few things in a science magazine about it, and this was, God, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. But so Genghis Khan, obviously one of the most badasses in history in both good and bad ways.
Super rapey, as were his kids, which is why I think like 60% of human beings on the planet have traces of his DNA. And the Muscovites, who currently run Russia, who became the czars and then ultimately became the ruling class of Russia today, basically traded all the people south of them and part of the Ukrainians as slaves to him to do whatever the fuck he wanted with, which is why the word slaves comes from Slav.
Right, because Khan was so vicious. So the story that originally caught my attention when I was a kid, and I was like, "Are you kidding?" And then my dad was like, "Well, yeah, here, this part of it's true." So historical story where Khan he was conquering people going west through what is now China. You know, he'd conquer the different. So he sent somebody to the area that was basically northern Afghanistan and did the typical thing of, I'd like to conquer you, but it'd be easier if you just gave in. So, tell my envoy, what's going on, and that's fine. And they sent his envoy's head back in a box. And Khan was like, well, okay, that didn't go so well. So he sent another one. He sent two of them. And he said, okay, let's try this again. That's fine. But tell them if they do this next time, I'm going to come and kill every living thing and salt the earth for 1,000 years. And they were like, yeah. So they killed those two and they sent them back. So Khan went and he literally did stacked skulls and then he salted the earth. And this was always the myth. And they were like, oh, this is a myth. It didn't actually happen. And then, God, I think I was reading this about 20 years ago that some scientist was like, wait a minute, we can check the DNA. So they checked the salinity of northern Afghanistan. Much higher level of salt than should have been there, given all the other geographic conditions. And they checked the DNA of the salt and they went, shit, this stuff comes from the ocean off the coast of China, which means he literally marched 1,000 miles across some of the toughest terrain of China, killed every living thing, and salted the earth so that for 1,000 years, so nothing worth a shit grew. In a time way before our modern technology, he did this.
Right. Well, he killed a million people. He killed a million people in a day. His forces killed a million people in a day. So, and again, before gunpowder.
Yeah, so the idea that people in that geographic region have some kind of a latent memory, much like the people in the Florida-Georgia line with Sherman, and go, fuck, we don't want any single body controlling anything, because the last time that happened, they fucking killed everything. So they all have these little groups. They don't understand. They don't have enough of the knowledge collectively, and people still don't 100% believe it. Shit, I have, looking at the science shit, and I don't still 100% believe it. But you're sitting there going, that is the type of psychological damage that, that'd last 1,000 years. Holy shit, that would last 1,000 years. And it would make sense why they were like, nobody fucking agreed to any big government, because the last time that happened, everyone fucking died. So let's not do that in this corner of the world.
Well, and also why they created alliances throughout Europe, between the warring amongst the French, the Spanish, and the English about who would kind of be in charge of the alliance. Because ironically, that seemed to be what most of the fighting was about. Was not like, you can't have a king, I'm your king. It wasn't ever about that. It was like, we're going to fight till my king's better than your king, but then we're going to be able to push back against any of the assholes that come. I'm just going to be able to send your people first to die. That's the agreement, because my king's got seniority, but I don't want to wipe yours out in case anything happens to my fat inbred dickhead. I want to be able to, maybe we'll lash onto yours. So it's kind of a lineage of that, but it was born out of this, this push from the East. That, by the way, again, there were people who made deals with these folks at the time, who end up, like I said, being the Muscovites. The Trumps of the world are those people these days. Like Trump,
Yes.
if the IRGC offered this motherfucker a plane, the war would be over tomorrow.
Oh God, yeah.
He would forget why it even happened. If and
with assistance,
the
female assistance,
right? Yeah, obviously not from that part of the world for him, but yeah. So, but this is. And by the way, let me see if I can play this on here so I can show you this. This is Donald Trump. He read from Second Chronicles.
Oh my God.
This thing.
The Bible.
Yeah. Let's see if this actually. Oh wait, is the sound coming through? Hold on. I don't.
Yep, not hearing it, but that's okay.
Okay, yeah. Hold on.
I don't have to hear it.
Yeah.
The sound should come through. But anyways, point being, here's the verse he actually read. Let me read the actual Bible verse he read, which is so fucking like it's basically like it was from Chronicles. It's essentially like if the Jews will stop worshiping golden calves and just go back to the magic land, I'll bless them forever, and every Christian should bless them as well. Because it was apparently sent this in as part of a Bible reading marathon for this group. Like they were doing a 24-hour live stream. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways. Then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. And again, Trump probably thinks God meant America. Honestly. And by the way, there are a bunch of Christians who I don't know if they're there's this variation of the people who read the New International Bible and all that stuff, Jesus said awesome, it's translated into modern language. That believe that America is the new Israel, and that the chosen people are not Jews, but the Christians who took up the name of the Messiah and followed him, or whatever. And the creation of Israel, beg your pardon, is. Oh, I have double audio. Oh, sorry.
Yep.
There we go. That's better. Sorry, I was trying to fix the thing. Yeah. So, I was like in a stadium for a moment. I'm troubleshooting live because I'm in LA on a different setup. But that the idea is that they believe, therefore, they're the people who believe that we should, like Huckabee, that we should support Israel because that's God's chosen people, and I have my own feelings about that. I don't believe in magic families or magic dirt. I think the whole earth is holy, and I think all peoples of the earth are holy, and the only thing that makes people unholy is their actions. Call me nutty, but
some people are more assholey than others. But
yes, right. I would count myself as being that way. Thank you very much. But but certainly they believe that the chosen thing picked up and went to the sort of Quaker and then British and then expansionist idea of America eventually, right. And not the immigrants that came later. And by the way, not just like Hispanic people and Asians and other things, like fucking Italians, Jews,
Irish,
anybody, like none of them, and the Irish, right? None of them. So, and those folks are kind of ascendant in this White House.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like this is the first time we've had ever around a president. I mean, ever. Even when the presidents were like shrugging off slavery and that kind of stuff. This is the first time we've ever had people who are like, nah, I really think this is the Holy Land now. Like, we need a giant, we should be the ones, almost like the white Hebrew Israelites, like this, like nutty cult. There's like a Caucasian version of it that is surrounding Trump right now with the Paula Whites of the world or whatever. And it is,
right.
And the fact that it's him, And then he just could not give less of a shit about any of that, except that he's basically Dom DeLuise in History of the World Part 1. You know, treasure bath! You know, I just had a great idea. What was my idea?
Yeah, but not as fun or sweet.
Yeah, no. Well, no one's as sweet or fun as Dom DeLuise, period. End of story. But you know, wanting to be the Caesar.
This is why you've got the keg breath thing and the whole, you know, church services at the Pentagon bullshit and you know, I mean, this is who they
farce.
Yeah,
it's a fucking farce. Like none of them, including keg breath, believe any of it. Like they don't. There are true believers around them. There's true believers. I'm sure that their staff is chock full of these like youth pastor types who are true believers, right? Who actually believe that Hegseth is somehow truly religious, or that Trump is a man of God. And lately, and this, I want to talk to you guys about this and what you've seen, and if you've seen as much of it as I have, of the maggot rift that's going on right now, where they all seem to be like there's a mass coming of the senses with a big chunk of maggotry, you know, starting obviously with the Tucker Carlson and the Candace Owens split. And just the peel off Alex Jones and others that and everybody wants credit for suddenly realizing what all three of us have been saying the whole fucking time.
Well, I think that Tucker's going to run for president, like Bob Cesca has posited many times.
Right.
I agree with him that he's going to run, and that's like, and Chris Lavoie said yesterday, nobody likes him. Why the fuck would he run? Because the right doesn't like him, the left certainly doesn't like him. So I don't know how he could ever even win a primary, let alone the presidency. But Madge Three Toes is also running for something, and Alex Jones took his shirt off yesterday. Never do that again, Alex. Seriously, it's not a good look. Because he's mad that The Onion is buying Infowars.com.
Right.
So they took the shirt off his back.
Ben Collins and friends. Yeah. Yes, Ben Collins is good on that.
I cannot wait to watch that. But the thing is like the stupid Bible, the Bible verse that Donald read isn't from the New Testament, by the way. That's old,
from the Old Testament.
It's 3,000 years old. So it's not even Christian, kids.
Right.
The whole thing too. The rift that is happening. There's more. We had Sherry Jacobus. Some of your audience may know Sherry. She used to do a lot more on CNN and MS and some of the other scripts and whatever out there, and Fox, obviously. And then basically Donald stomped on her because back in 2016, she's like, "You're a fucking idiot, and your people are criminals, and fuck, I'm not gonna, shill for you." And they were like, "Okay, fine, fuck, bury this bitch." Which she's not. She's great. She's actually a really smart strategist in things, and we've had her in the bar a number of times. And what Sherry, we were talking about, because we said basically, aren't there like three groups on the right now? There's your Michael Steele's, which why the hell are you still a Republicans?
He's trying to
still
save
registered.
His poor party.
I know, poor man.
Poor baby.
I produced for him. Right, I produced for him. Anyway, so that's that. Then there's the people that call themselves the America Firsters, and then there's the people that are the MAGA folks. And the America Firsters and the MAGA folks are both racist. They're both bigoted. They're both misogynists. They're both a-holes, except the big differences between them. And a lot of people on the left are like, it doesn't fucking matter. They're all assholes. So it's like, no. It matters. It matters because the America Firsters say Donald Trump promised no more fucking wars.
Yep.
And hello, and now they're trying to do potentially one in Cuba, and they got the shit still going on in South America, and they're still some of them grumbling about Greenland, and you're like, wait. So they're pissed about that. They're also pissed about the Epstein files. They're the people who truly believed they bought Donald's shtick about, well, I wasn't in them, but I'll make sure all the information is released. And of course, every time something new comes out, it points back at Donald, and they're like, what the fuck is this horse shit? You motherfuckers said we'd get everything and everything.
Or it suspiciously doesn't. Like it avoids, even in a time when he was hanging out with them and it was obvious that he was there. It's stuff that is in the public realm that we all know about, but somehow it's missing from the tranche, right?
Melania said she never met Jeffrey or Ghislaine. No, I never met her. Why are you saying that, Hal? I never met her.
What Sherry has told us, Hal, is that there's actually a lot more divisions that we haven't, most of us on the left, because we're not in that universe. We don't spend our time in the Fox Twisted Head universe that we don't get. She said there is still a corporatist right who doesn't believe any of this shit. God, they just want to be wherever they will be to make the most amount of money and keep their asses out of jail. Right, exactly, Jody. There are lots of other sub-factions. And the one thing that all of these sub-factions on the right have in common is they all fucking hate each other's guts.
Right.
And
it is the worst coalition ever.
Right. And the one reason that they all stuck together was that Donald Trump promised them power, promised them that they would get seats and that they could then use that power to go after the people that they felt had been keeping them down and going after them.
Right.
And they didn't get the shit he promised. They haven't gotten the power that he promised. And when they have gotten the power, they haven't really been allowed to use it and do anything with it, like the assholes in the Republican Congress, thankfully. And so they're like, you promised us everything. We didn't get nothing. We didn't fucking get nothing that you promised.
Right.
And so that's why they pissed at him.
Here's also the other issue, and this is also, I think, a habit that Donald Trump has had for a very long time, is that he promised conflicting things to coalition members. So things that are diametrically opposed, like being the biggest friend to Israel, ride or die, no matter what. In the context of already being post-October 7th, already into Netanyahu's overreach, well beyond any kind of, parody or retaliatory normalcy or even pairing out Hamas at this point. It's just a demo bombing now. It has nothing even to do with the people. It's literally a real estate grab, and you could argue that parts of their attacks on southern Lebanon are starting to look like that as well. And so when he says ride or die with Israel, he means Netanyahu. He means Kushner, Netanyahu, Witkoff as a real estate venture. That's what he's talking about. And it's not about, we're not talking about the fuck. Well, even the Likud, at least they're religiously, orthodox and believe in some sort of like permanence.
But the folks who surround Netanyahu, the folks who surround Netanyahu, just like the folks who are around Trump, they are all in it for their own grift too.
Well, these are all, these are all resource wars. These are all resource wars. Even the Shia-Sunni push, and the rift over that would have died out and become kind of like a Episcopalian versus Presbyterian argument had it not been for the entire world needs the goo that's under their feet for decades. Right. If they without those funds, it's a fucking fight over a chess game. And hopefully one day we get back to that point. But when Trump said that, when he said, ride or die Israel, when he really meant ride or die Netanyahu, but whatever, that is in direct, it's certainly not quote unquote America first. That's what their big flap has been. That's what Nick Fuentes and all these guys are bitching about, is that they're calling him Israel first and all that. That's the pejorative that they use in these regards. And then on top of that, it's the MAGA crowd that wants no more regime change wars, no more forever wars, all that kind of stuff. No more Middle Eastern wars, like that specific. Which, by the way, when they mean forever wars, what they really mean, a bunch of them, I'm convinced, are the kind of ride or die Israel types. This is what they mean by it, is that no more forever wars means we're going to stop protecting the Palestinians or anybody that deserves some sort of two-state solution. Let's just step back and let the winner win, however they have to do it, by any means necessary, and then we'll step in and buddy up with them. It's really playing out in Sudan right now more than any other place, because it's just like, the death toll in Sudan is, it's like 3 times. It was the entire death toll that's happened in Gaza happened in a weekend in Sudan. And Sudan was on the list, on the PNAC list of 7 countries that they were going to knock over. And so there's this wind up that happened with them, and then they're just going to step back and watch it burn. That's what's happening right now. And then whoever's in charge will either make a deal with that person or snuff them. That's what Trump's crowd is operating on. And so that's that. Those I said at the beginning, like when he got reelected, I was like, there's no way this ends well, because what you have is two conflicting ideas, like trains leaving the station on the same piece of track headed towards each other. I don't know when they're going to hit, but they're going to hit. He's in the Epstein files, and he has campaigned on releasing them. Those are two trains that are going to hit. There is no diverting those. And last July, or whatever it was, late May or whatever, when they did the binders, and then they put out that memo, case closed and all that shit. Blanche tried it again last week, and everybody was like, fuck you. That it's, I think that was the domino that something snapped in MAGA last July when that memo came out, and then Kash Patel and Bongholio went on and killed himself. He's killed himself. Flop sweat, hostage video. Both of them are like, yeah, I saw it. It's clear as day. We're going to show you 12 hours of video, and it's clear as day. Doesn't show the door, doesn't show the steps, doesn't show the guard station. You can't make out anybody's face or big. You see a blip of orange that looks like a sound meter going up the door when there's nobody supposed to be moving. There's a janitor is the biggest person you see coming out of one fucking door, and they're like, yeah, clear as day. You see what's happening. I saw it. Then obviously you motherfucker, you saw something that is fake or made up, and they never released it because it was so obviously fake, and they convinced you because you're a dipshit. But it doesn't matter. Like, that was the day. That was like that was a Sunday, the same weekend those kids were drowned at that Christian camp in Texas. They released that memo the same fucking weekend. And both of those happening at once, where there was just this outcry amongst the religious right about the dead Christian kids at these camps who should have been warned, climate change being what it is. Now maybe they'll understand we give a shit. But that they hit it on that Sunday. On fucking Sunday. In the same way that he released that Jesus picture on Easter Sunday. Just this weird sacrilegious, like, kind of fuck you.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a snap that happened. And then we bombed Iran. And then... and then there's still nothing to see here. And then, some stuff actually is there. And then the discharge petition. Then he brings in Lauren Boebert and yells at her and says, take your name off the discharge petition.
Donald Trump is the kind of bully, and he's always been the kind of bully. It's not enough for him to get over on you. He has to rub your face in the dirt.
Yes.
Right.
That's the kind of bully he is. And for some of these maggot folks who, for whatever reason, their head was in it just, shows you how the media world that we live in today is so exploded. But they hadn't experienced this yet. They hadn't run into having their face rubbed in the dirt. And then that, Trump as American Jesus, or, and the whole thing. So he takes that down. And because they say, you can't have that up. So he takes it down, and then he puts up Trump with Buddy Jesus, arm around him.
Yeah, I called it the gender reveal. It looked like they were having a baby together. It looked like Jesus had his hand on Trump's belly, like,
Oh,
like
baby.
It's a trans. Like, it's just so fucking, like, it's so
but the whole point in doing that, whether or not he himself did it or whether he had one of his, many idiot minions do it, the whole point of it was to tell them, you tell me that I can't do that. I can, and fuck you, because where are you going to go?
Right.
Where are you going to go to find somebody who is going to be like me, who will listen to your crazy bullshit even a little bit? And they're like, well, fuck, we don't have any other choice.
Right.
It's like, well, yeah, your choices, and that ties back to the Iran thing. All that Donald Trump would have to do to make the Iran war end is have a little bit of humility, have the tiniest bit of humility, and stop for. I know Jody's laughing, and stop.
Yeah, come on.
John, you're just adorable.
Well, look, no, I'm just saying, all you have to do is stop being an asshole for just the tiniest little bit. That was this last weekend. That's what that proved. Is they're like, look, all you got to do is back down just a little bit. And Donald is such an asshole. He's like, nope, fuck you. All the way. I'm doing this with both hands.
Right.
And they're like,
but there is a moment where he tacos on the regular, because he does get today. Yeah, right. done it like 3 times in the last 48 hours.
Mhm.
They, and
the man likes tacos. The man likes tacos, Hal. I mean, you can see. Look at his belly. He likes tacos.
I don't think he does. I think he famously calls the Filet-O-Fish from McDonald's the Fish Delight, and his assistants this has been happening since this has happened since the fucking Apprentice. He sends assistants to go get him like 6 Fish Delights from fucking McDonald's, and they go there and they're like, "There's just a fillet of it. There's no Fish Delight. What the fuck is he talking about?" And they call his producer or whatever. He's like, "There's no such thing as he means fillet of fish. Just fucking get him the fillet. He doesn't know fucking
You guys know there's a McDonald's like 2 blocks from the White House.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're
not.
Oh, that's where the Republican influencer went to pretend that she actually has to do DoorDash. That's where she went to get the McDonald's to deliver.
That's right.
I've been there before. I mean, as McDonald's go, it's not bad, but I'm just like, yeah, that's they are making
it's
on that
Joe Stone Crab. Joe's Seafood, which is Joe Stone Crab in DC, all the way. And then there's of course Poets and whatever the book, and then there's Kramer's Books. Yeah. There's some great eating in DC. I love that town. I really do. I mean, obviously you can't walk anywhere without being mugged, raped, and murdered, and not necessarily in that order. So I'm always getting confused on the syntax on this. But I'll give you an example of how Trump not only you're right about his reflex to go, I did it and I'll do it again. And he did that with the release of the Epstein memo. He was like, and I don't even need your fucking help anymore. Screw you. And that was, that by Wednesday, he had basically given permission to an army of maggots to turn on him by basically saying, you're not real MAGA if you're not okay with me hiding the rest of the Epstein files. That was it. Like, if you don't buy that unsigned document that even Pam Bondi wouldn't put her fucking name on. And at this point, honest to God, I'm not even sure Pam Bondi or anybody at the DOJ drafted it. For all we know, Trump's White House, Stephen Miller, somebody in there, fucking Scavino or whoever does this PR shit, drafted it and they just put it on the fucking website. It's not like they can't. At this point, like, why bother even going through Pam Bondi? You're just going to tell her to do it anyways. And if if they did say it, like, we're going to put it up there, that's why there was no signatures on it, because they didn't even run it by him. End of story. Yeah. Shut up. Right? But he had told them to go fuck themselves. And he was almost out so many times in this. If he'd if he'd just, like you're talking about, he'd be a different human being. He's just, he's not, like, if he'd have been even marginally human in his response to COVID, he probably would have gotten reelected.
I agree. Right. I've always said that. I said, if he had just done his job as president, reelection easily.
But he could not do it because that's not him. So one of the things that came up was this with the right was, and it's sort of their excuse, is that somehow he was hypnotized, or somebody, literally Tucker Carlson said that someone cast a spell on him. Netanyahu used like blood sugar sex magic on him and made him, hardened his heart like God did to Pharaoh, which I also never understood. So the idea is the Pharaoh was going to let the Jews go, and God wanted to flex, so he hardened Pharaoh's heart so he wouldn't let the Jews go, just so he could kill a bunch of people to force him to let him go when he was already gonna. That's Old Testament stuff. I don't get it, and I don't think I ever will. It's like why God says, refers to himself in the plural for a very long time, and says, thou shalt have no other gods before me, not false gods or fake gods, but other gods, like, there are other gods. Never mind. All right. Anyways, so I'm just saying.
That's like the thing yesterday. We talked about it in the bar last night. The jackass that he's nominating for Fed chair, who's a bajillion already. And then Warren is like, Senator Warren was like, look, first of all, just tell me, who won the 2020? Did Donald Trump lose?
Let's be specific. She said, did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
All he had to do was yes, no. You're right. So there was that. But then she was saying about his investments. She's like, look, you haven't. There's $100,000 in investments you haven't fucking put on your disclosure. What the fuck are these related to?
Not 100
million.
Sorry, yeah. And are these related to Epstein? And he's like, well, these, if I have them, they'll be, he's like, wait. You
That's
obviously said that you had them here. You're going to get rid of them if you get nominated, or if you get.
No. Also, what, that seems like one of the most, like the easiest fucking questions of all. Do you have $100 million in Epstein related investments? Would be a hard fucking no for anybody. Or
for most people on the planet,
I'm an investor in Harvard because I believe in the school, and Epstein, curtailed those things, but he was the conduit, but I was investing in Harvard. Like, you can get away with that. I think you could probably skirt that shit. It's still hinky. I will need some more receipts and some calendar dates to see where you are.
You don't answer that question with, well, if my nomination is secured, I'll sell them off. Because it
depends. It depends on how you pronounce Epstein. So, anyways, Trump there are many times where Trump has an out. He's like, and again, all he has to do is shut the fuck up. And the people that carry water for him they'll get these buckets up and they'll start getting some movement. Glenn Beck and others. Like he kicked Epstein out for being a creep, right? That was the whole thing. That was their one saving grace. Yeah, he was friends with him for 27 years. Yeah, he did Look of the Year with David Copperfield and Epstein and all these dudes. And he bragged to Howard Stern about walking in on naked 15-year-olds and staring at their tits and said he could check their mouths like fucking racehorses. And yes, he's an unrepentant sexual predator, but somehow he met Paula White and found Jesus and whatever. And, they can shove that shit down in and just sit on the luggage. Just go hold it down. But right as they're getting some steam on this, he kicked him out for being a creep, which he didn't.
Right.
They had a falling out over a piece of real estate. It lasted about 3 fucking months, and then they were back together thick as fucking thieves. And Trump did a dry snitch on him during that time, called the cops, when they knew he found out they were looking into him, called the cops and said, you don't have to depose me and put me under oath. I'll just tell you about him. Like, oh, thanks. Because they don't depose witnesses unless they are material witnesses that they have evidence on. So to avoid that, he just calls and says, yeah, I know a little bit about him, but thank God you guys are going after him. Whatever. That's the story, which is horseshit and apocryphal. But anyways, he had that, he could say, they were all carrying it for him. Levitt was saying it. Glenn Beck was saying it. Everybody was like, he kicked him out for being a creep. It was a quote. Stephen Chung said it over and over and over again. Then Trump goes, he was stealing staff from the spa. He was hiring people away from me. That's why I told him not to come back. Like,
girls.
Right, but even still, that's not kicking him out for being a creep.
No.
And how in the ever-loving fuck do you regard somebody snatching, sexually being predacious and taking your staff and prostituting underage girls and call that taking staff? Unless that's what you were using them for, you dumb motherfucker. I kept saying, nobody who employed one of Ted Bundy's victims ever said, Ted Bundy poached my employees. He stole my cashier. I had a nurse working for me, and he stole my nurse. Or whatever. Like, he murdered her, you dumb motherfucker. Okay. So anyways, right as he's about to get away with it, he comes out and says that. And then the other saving grace about both the Iran attack and stuff, the no more regime change wars, no more Middle East wars, whatever. What they were telling everybody, maggots they'd settled in on the story. What's the fucking story? The story is Netanyahu made him do it. He whispered in him, he's the Ray Epps of the Iran war. He whispered in his ear, and even though what Ray Epps said was, take it easy, they're on our side, that was the code word that they'd all been hypnotized by MK Ultra to charge up the steps and tase them until they almost die and beat cops and break, chips in their spines and break teeth and all that kind of stuff. Stomp one of their own to death while she was dying of a meth overdose and all that shit. But yeah, just because they're all so fucking dough-brained. But they were saying, look, Netanyahu made him do it. His supporters in the White House aren't running interference like they should. And Netanyahu called him like 7 times. And I'm like, why didn't he hang up on him 7 times? Is he an adult? Should he be in a home? Is it Pudding Cup Wednesday? But here's what he said. Let me finish this. Right when they were carrying that for him, like Netanyahu made him do it. Trump puts out a statement. Israel never talked me into the war with Iran. The results of October 7th added to my lifelong opinion that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon did, all caps. Right. So he just fucking tosses a grenade in his own fucking foxhole and covers his ears.
No, it's like Melania. I didn't know Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, we were in the same social circles in New York, but you know.
And casual, nothing can be construed as any more than casual conversation. Like, okay, first of all, asshole, you don't have casual conversation with a sex trafficker. That and you don't end it with love G. I've never ended love ya, call me when you're here on my very first and only email with someone. Get the fuck out of here. Stop it. Stop.
Well,
and especially,
I mean, I don't. I mean, I do. I don't know.
Yeah, she looked like Hank Paulson in 2008 going, look, the economy's fine. Looking like he's sweating like he's in the movie Airplane, you know?
A lot of this, we're talking about the people who surround Trump too. Melania and even it was Netanyahu, whatever. Yeah, Paulson back in the day covering for the Bush folks. So that kind of brings us to something we're going to talk at the bar about tonight, about Tucker. Fucking Tucker. Coming out, motherfucking Tucker coming out and I never really believe. Shut the fuck up, Tucker. God damn.
With Buckley, Buckley, like I'm sure you've seen his interview with Buckley, his brother, who, by the way,
Buckley's his son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucker and Buckley. Yeah, right. Because I'm sorry, I can say that on your show because they are fuckers. But
Buckley looks older than him.
Well, he works harder, probably.
He also has to live with him. I mean,
he also smokes. He also smokes Camel Unfiltered and has forever. But honestly, Buckley looks like Tucker Carlson fucked Liberace. Like look at him and try to unsee it. Try to unsee it.
Look now.
Yeah. My biggest thing is just the fact that we've said there is kind of a meeting of the Venn diagram, if you will, of this, because there's Parker Malloy just put out a piece about kind of ranking out on Cory Booker a little bit for Cory doing something finally that I admit that it's not everything that Democrats should be doing, but at least some of what Democrats should be doing is calling out the assholes who said, well, I agreed with 90% of what Hillary Clinton believed, and I agree with 90% of what Kamala believed. That other 10%, fuck you. I couldn't. And there's a lot of issues that I've had with Booker, and I'm an acquaintance of his. But I tell you, one of the ones that I had the biggest problem with is him not coming out strongly enough, him not coming out and calling out some of these assholes. Instead going, I want kumbaya, and I'm going to no, motherfucker. You got to call. This was easy that he called them out. Parker Malloy just put out a piece, and she's like, well, that won't necessarily work. And I'm like, first of all, Democrats do not have one single strategy that works for every part because we're too big of a party to have one strategy that works for everybody.
Well, I think that's I do think that is what's happening. I think different people are like, depending on where they want to go, whether they got presidential ambitions versus keeping their seat versus House moving to Senate or governorship or something along those lines, that everybody, there are different strategies for each. So there are some are off the chain and can be attack dogs and just fucking go for it. And then others are like, I've got to appeal to the independents in the middle by going, look, it's not that I didn't give this motherfucker every chance in the world. And that does not apply to the base, but the base at least knows that they're going to vote the right way and do the right thing when they're in there, even if they weren't loud enough in what they were doing. Because they don't have to convince us that we need healthcare and public roads and schools and all that kind of shit, which obviously Cory Booker and everybody like that would be for.
That's just it. I mean, I love Parker as a writer. She's great. We've had her in the bar before. We'll have her in the bar again. But the idea that we shouldn't yell at the people who fucking knew better, who knew they needed to get off their ass, who knew that they shouldn't just assume that Donald Trump is insane and that nobody's going to vote for him. They should have fucking gone in.
Right.
And because of that, I still can't get in and vote. And all the Cory was doing is going, you motherfuckers who insist that the Democratic Party bow to you and make sure and say, we don't want to have any form of money and no form of ownership. And we're going to super far liberal and then all we ask of you is show up and you motherfuckers don't. And now you want to, fuck you. We're not going to apologize to you.
Well,
fuck
that's
you.
Well, that ends up being like the issue that I have with kind of like the Sanders or die crowd was that he's an independent. Right. He became a Democrat. I got it. People have to understand this. He ran on this idea, I'm not going to have a super PAC and I'm not doing the super PACs, and that's the difference for me. He used the Democratic Party as a super PAC. It is a political action committee. It is the largest liberal political action committee that exists. He used the entire infrastructure, the mailing system, the donor list. All that stuff comes to you if you run as a Democrat. You can reach out. They don't have to say yes, but you will get access to all that shit. It is the same thing, and then go back to being an independent and then do it again. No, there is a reason you establish something is partly because you don't want carpetbaggers watering it down. And if you want to talk about the importance of having an establishment that can defend itself and actually run as a cohesive unit, you need look no further than the Republican Party and Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the exact thing that happens when your establishment is overrun by a carpetbagger who doesn't really have the interests of everybody in the party at heart. He is specific to a donor class. Now, the argument is that I would argue, and I would have voted for Bernie Sanders had he won the nomination, though he would not have, because there was a glass ceiling on his support nationwide. Everybody knew it. Hillary won fair and square. All this, the establishment drove him up. It's just garbage. It is horseshit. The numbers don't bear it out. It's insane. They even in the areas where they stacked people at the caucuses to try and muscle everybody by showing up. You're like, motherfucker, you do realize that the people that showed up didn't show up before and they didn't show up after. So they're unreliable and not part of your movement. So they're not going to be there when Bernie has a tough weekend.
This is the whole thing where I'm talking about the Venn diagram, because it's some of those same people who are saying, well, you shouldn't let any of the MAGA folks on what we call the sanity bus over at the politics bar, which is the fact that look, if you're somebody like Joe Walsh, God love him, you know, who used to be a MAGA flamethrower and has taken real and serious financial hits, personal hits, all this type of shit. He's actually, we love having him in because, you know, with the same reason we love Sheridan, but we also have in people like Kat Abigazela, who's, you know, so liberal that she's got this great new organization called Kapow where she's donating. We go across the board. But the idea is some people go, well, you can't let all of those people in. You can't. No, we can't. There are some people. One of the people that we can't allow to come on the bus happens to be Tucker. Because there's a certain level of when people say, you know, who are you going to accept? I'm sorry, but Tucker was one of the motherfuckers who ended up selling Donald Trump and burying all of us in there. I don't care if he loses every fucking dime that he has. He's not getting on the sanity bus. He has to do his time. He has to be held accountable. And the way he's held accountable is by leaving his ass behind. So that's fine.
Agree.
But that doesn't mean that you're Joe Blow idiot who's in the bar down the street who I voted for Trump 3 times and now he's trying to be Jesus and got us in this fucking Iran war and I think maybe I should rethink shit. Okay, fine.
Here's
we'll let you on the bus, asshole. But you know,
I agree. But I do think there's you know, one of the things I've been pushing is that these folks, I'm not going to buy it until they apologize or at least say they were probably wrong about all of us who were going, he's a liar. He's not going to do any of these things. He's a rapist. He's in this for himself. He is in the Epstein files more than anybody else. He wasn't just a buddy. He was a co-conspirator and a fellow traveler. It's literally his happy place. Like if he could speak openly about it, those are the only moments where you would see any real joy in his face is his partying with Epstein and underage girls. So until they realized that we weren't just talking out of our ass, we weren't just shitting on him the way we were criticizing Mitt Romney's binders full of women, which was, you know, a political joke. Like there are scales in this, and it was pathetic and it was lame, and he's on the other side. So we were pushing back on his being weak on women's issues and him trying to clean up very poorly. That's very different than a man with 27 legit sexual assault charges against him. And none of us, at a certain point, they have to go, look, assholes, everything he's been a liar this whole time. This isn't new. He didn't turn on you. He didn't promise something and not deliver this time, and that was somehow different from last time. He fucked up last time, too. So
there's an easy test, by the way, as to whether they should be somebody who gets on the bus or not. Jody, it's the Anita test. You want to tell Hal?
Did Joe Biden win the election?
Sure.
Did
If
Joe
they
Biden
say
win the
no
2020 election?
or blah, 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 then they fail the test.
Right. Well, here's what I would make it more personal than that, because I would go to each of them. Whenever we're doing one of these No Kings marches, there's always occasional maggots who are hanging out there, and whenever they're there, they're always yelling shit and all that. And I go, real quick, I just have one question: how long would it have taken you to figure out Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile?
Sex
How
predator,
long?
right?
And they all go 10 minutes. I didn't know in fucking 10 minutes. I didn't know in 6 seconds. Like, why did it take Donald Trump 27 years and he still defends the guy's girlfriend who helped him do this? And then don't wait for an answer. Walk away, because they're going to respond to you, not the question. The only way that question bounces around in their empty fucking dome looking for a place to nest is if you leave it there. And the other, and the same thing is true about this kind of apologies. Like, hey, considering what you think of, I mean, you don't like the war, you don't like what he's doing with the Epstein files, the tariff shit didn't work, all that kind of stuff. Maybe, just maybe, the people like me that were warning you about him weren't just being assholes. We were literally trying to help. And then again, don't wait for the answer, because because human to human, they will get defensive. Walk the fuck away. Let that stew in their empty dome and find a place to nest, because it will, and it has. And that's what's happened with a lot of these folks, because in their doom scrolling, that's exactly what's happening. They're seeing these things. They can't have anybody individual to yell at.
Once are popping up in their head because
and they're like,
and it keeps coming up again and again, and they're like, fuck.
And they're like, lots of things to do. I have to. This is a garbage day. Lots to do. Crafts. I've been wanting to learn how to do crafts.
Speaking of which, we got to go finish up and
go do your show. Thank you.
Go. So
do your thing. Thank you so much.
Are you kidding? We love it. So you're going to come hang out again here in a few weeks?
I insist. I will barge in. All right. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. All right. I'll see you guys later. There you go. Bye. There they go. Ladies and gentlemen, Jody and Sean from Politics Bar. And I'm very proud of them for creating a mocktail in my honor, especially in honor of the mockade that's going on. Real quick, I'm going to check before I sign off. Love you as well. See you guys this afternoon. Regular show this afternoon. After I sign off, I might just stay on and fix shit while I'm here to make sure it actually works. That'd be, what a nutty idea. I think I could test it by recording and checking. I don't think I have to put you guys through that. But anyways, hit the like, share the show, etc., etc., etc. And I was going to check one thing, see if we have any, like, in the breaking news part of stuff as we go. But quite frankly, Trump and his people have, there's as much a coup going on. This is the fascinating part. There's so many parallels between us and the Iranian people and the leadership of both our countries right now, is that there is a militaristic and civilian fight going on that's very overt in the Iranian regime, government, whatever the control structure, whatever it shakes out to be, that is not dissimilar to what's happening and because Trump is kind of a media president, in the MAGA tree versus, inside and outside the White House, and the Tucker Carlsons and the Tulsi Gabbards and the Joe Kents, who are allegedly against this stuff, but somehow, all of them helped get us here, which again, I think they owe us all a giant fucking apology. Because the question ultimately has to be, it was like, sorry, so 0.05% of the population may be being able to participate in sports in a non-professional status. That was enough to start all this shit. That's what drove to you, right? Woof. So, anyways, we'll get to that later. But let's see. I want to try and see if this because even I like the other day I showed the in the Iran war updates. I think it was on Bloomberg or New York. I think it was New York Times where they do kind of running live updates, and it literally was like the person who was writing the blurb, because they have like every 7 minutes they'll put in a new piece, right? Was like, I don't know even who they're talking to. And it's really even hard to figure out. It's impossible. Like, I don't know. They don't know who they're talking to. We can't tell from what they're saying if they mean what. We can't tell if the White House is being truthful. We can't tell if the Iranians are being truthful. We don't even know what the truth would be, so we couldn't even check it if they were. Like, it was just, I was like, they should just put a big shrug emoji, right? Well, I'm sure you guys are interested in just how well it's going. Yes. So let me see if this shows properly and it comes up here. Yeah, there we go. Iran attacks 3 ships in the Strait of Hormuz as Trump indefinitely extends ceasefire. Yeah. Oh, by the way, does that look open to you? This area right here? This is where all these guys and these guys, they'd be going through here by the hundreds. This is the Strait of Hormuz. Does this look open in any fucking way at all? Trump said Tuesday it would indefinitely extended ceasefire. That was last night, and then Iran said they would agree to do it. So Iran's Revolutionary Guard fired on 3 ships in the Strait of Hormuz today, throwing efforts to end the war further into question. Could they be more into question? Is there even an illusion of an answer at this point? So of course it's in question. Son of a bitch. Let me try and stretch this out. And then we boarded another tanker. Yeah. So it's just so the stupids. The whole thing is just the stupids, and it's going to stay the stupids for a while. And as I said on Friday, remember, you guys, what did I say Friday? When Trump was like, it's over, we're good. And Fox News was like, high five, market's rocking, we're going to be awesome. Rock and roll, baby, we're back. We can go back to talk about the Epstein files. And what did I say? This is fucking ridiculous. This is nowhere near true on any measure. Stop it. Not even for a second. Like, no one has an excuse for looking at what Trump posted on Friday and taking it seriously. Like, nobody gets an idiot pass that's that comprehensive. Piss off. It's insane. No. As he was saying it, I was like, anybody paying any attention knows this. The fact that the market reeled on it just means that there's a bunch of fucking trader bots that people have set up that do automatic trading. But none of it was believable. None of it's believable now. None of what the Iranians are saying is believable because they don't fucking know. So the idea that Trump's like, we're negotiating with reasonable guys who are now dead, and maybe they're all dead. Everybody's dead. And then I could destroy everything if I wanted to. I just don't feel like it. And there's a fight going on. They're fighting amongst themselves. So we're just going to sit back and watch for a little while. Which apparently they're not fighting enough between themselves, amongst themselves, for the IRGC to not fire on 3 civilian ships trying to go through the strait. So again, where does that lead us? At some point, if they don't agree to stop that, the U.S. is going to have to put boots on the ground on the eastern shore of the strait. Or bomb it till it's uninhabitable. Honestly, that's the only options. Without regime change, that's the only option. And even then like I said, if it breaks into faction groups and IRGC groups or, hardliners are just like, those assholes surrendered, but we're not with them. We're on our own. We're going to take all the missiles and shit that we have, and we're going to, carve off our own little chunk of land. They'll just have to leave us alone, like Hezbollah in Lebanon, like Hamas, any of these separatist groups. That's exactly what's going to fucking happen. Anyways, love you guys. I will see you later on this afternoon. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. Hit the like, share the show, etc., etc., etc. Subscribe.